to Amaka Intellectual Factory, where I host podcasts and many other interesting stuff. Please pardon my froggy voice. I just woke up from a beautiful nap. I successfully tackled a house chore that I kept on postponing for over a year. I thought it would take me a week to finish, but I was able to finish it in a day and a half. So you can imagine how happy I am. Anyway, in this video, I would be narrating an article on China's chess moves that I published on my website a few days ago. Enjoy. China's chess moves, chipping at the edges of the US with bread and circuses, learned from Japan and ancient Rome. Introduction. Trump 2.0's tariffs. On April 2nd, 2025, President Trump announced reciprocal tariffs the US would apply to other countries. As the word reciprocal indicates, what determined the US's percentage of tariffs was premised on what the other country's tariffs on the US was. As a master military strategist myself, this makes sense to me. I am also big on reciprocity in all types of relationships. Be it parent-child relationship, siblings relationship, friendships, lovers relationship, business relationship, or even political relationship. It makes sense for both parties in the relationship to be invested enough in the relationship. How else would you know that the other person you are in a relationship with values you in the relationship if they do not reciprocate your gestures as the right hand washes the left hand? The alternative to this type of relationship is a form of vampirism, where one party takes an undue advantage of the other party. This is common sense. But as we all know, common sense is not common. So how did President Trump's subversive opposition and simpletons react to President Trump's reciprocal tariffs? Your guess is as good as mine. They were foaming at the mouth and engaging in their usual fake news. But what did Sun Tzu, an ancient Chinese military strategist, advise? Sun Tzu said, "Many calculations lead to victory, and few calculations to defeat." This advice is just what President Trump has been following since he was sworn in as the 47th president of the United States, making one winning chess move after the other with the rapidity of a hare.
I'll smile, what it takes to fool this town. I'll do it till the sun goes down and all through the night time. Oh yeah, I'll tell you what you wanna hear. Keep my sunglasses on while I shed a tear. It's never the right time. Yeah. I put my arm on so you are from my end. I put my arm on so you that I am. I put my arm on so you are from my end. I put my arm on so you that I am. I'm unstoppable. I'm a version with no brakes. I'm invincible. And I win every single day. Rain so powerful. I don't need batteries today. I'm so confident. I'm unstoppable today.
But those opposed to Trump's administration have become so accustomed to stagnation and backwardness that winning, being innovative, and making progress frightens them.
You've never been there before, it's only your first time.
They are just not used to having a grand master financial strategist as president, a grand master deal maker in chief as president. It is just as the Igbos say, when you let a bad thing to go on for a year, it becomes a culture. Now, shortly after President Trump announced his not-so-reciprocal tariffs, many countries understood it was time to make a deal with the Grand Master Deal Maker-in-Chief at the White House. Not China, though. You see, when someone has taken advantage of you for so long, decades in fact, and developed themselves based on that, the day you assert your rights and autonomy, they would view it as a declaration of war. Trump administration's detractors, on the other hand, took to social media prophesying doomsday. So I looked up China's tariffs on the US and the US's reciprocal tariffs as of April 2nd, 2025. I could not believe what I saw. While China's tariffs on the US were 67%, Trump's reciprocal tariffs on China were 34%, basically half of what China's tariffs were. How this brilliant chess move by the Trump administration does not bring China to the negotiating table with the United States beats me. To me, this is not an act of aggression by Trump, but an indication that America wants to have a conversation with China. Chinese people who were feeling the squeeze of the ever-increasing Trump tariffs took a page out of Japan's ancient military strategist Miyamoto Musashi's book, The Book of Five Rings, chipping at the edges of an opponent when the opponent is too big to directly attack. These Chinese nationals also borrowed from ancient Romans' bread and circuses strategy. I will call it a 2-for-1 strategy. During the ancient Roman days, when their politicians wanted to distract the masses of people from the political activities of their politicians, they would put out very grandiose entertainment to divert the attention of the grieving masses of people. In other words, the primary aim of bread and circuses is diversion. Make a lot of noise here so people do not see what is happening over there. In that same vein, Chinese people took to social media exposing how major designer brands in the United States buy products made in China for dirt cheap and sell at prices over 500 to 1,000% in the United States.
Which Chinese factory supplies for Louis Vuitton? Let me tell you the secret. Louis Vuitton have many Chinese suppliers, but they just don't admit it. 50% of the Louis Vuitton bag are from these two places, Guangzhou City and Dongguan City. 90% of Louis Vuitton silk is from Wanshili in Hangzhou City. I have a friend who is a manager in the factory of Louis Vuitton, and he told me that a similar quality one just needs $50 US. This is crazy, right?
Can these Chinese people please tell us something we do not already know? In Africa, raw materials are sold very cheap to the big countries in the West and East, and then the refined or processed raw materials are sold at an unbelievably high price to the same Africans that own the raw materials. Social media is already awash with videos of foreign companies manufacturing products in China really cheap and selling them in the United States and the world at large for insane prices. You can see why I do not understand the uproar over this Chinese exposure of major American brand names. It's the surprise factor, not part of the whole idea of an exposure? Well, we are not surprised, so nothing was exposed. It is business and a type of capitalism that should be addressed. The crux of the matter is China's unfair high tariffs on America, not how Louis Vuitton, for instance, makes its products very cheap in China and sells them to Americans at very high prices. That is a totally different conversation. I think the problem is that simpletons and anarchists are constantly looking for the next thing to be outraged by. They get a kick out of chaos. This mindset is an unfortunate manifestation or product of the woke culture that Obama and Biden's administrations burdened America and the world with. My concluding thoughts. China descends from very ancient civilizations that produced some of the best military strategists. My simple advice to China would be to go to the White House and make a deal with President Trump, who in his usual graceful nature has made it easy for China to save its face. Change is constant, and the world as we know it is changing. A global age is on the horizon, and I am sure China would not want to be left behind. The end of my article. As always, you are more than welcome to share your thoughts in the comment section down below. Well, that's all I have to say for now. Until next time, take care of your lovely selves. And remember, life is beautiful and worth living.
Everywhere, fruits and herrings, dykes and fairies, tell me where it's empty. Tax the rich, feed the poor, till there are rich no more.